Episode 2, Cemeteries of New York. I got my field investigator and cameraman, Bobby. Bobby, welcome back, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
So today we are on the way to a very historical cemetery, and a lot of people don't know about it. It's actually very hidden. I believe it's on Route 9 in Ossining, New York. And I have been there on multiple occasions. It was actually one of my first investigations when I had a paranormal investigation group back in the day when I was in my teenage years. And that was one of the first places we investigated because through the internet, there was a whole bunch of stories about ghostly happenings within the cemetery. And it's a very small cemetery, but years later, we started doing research and there happens to be one of the most famous tales of a vagabond who is supposedly buried there in Sparta Cemetery. Now, Bobby, you are highly interested. You said that you love this stuff. We had to accommodate a different day to shoot. What intrigues you about this particular time period and cemetery that we're headed to today?
Well, I love the combination. You have the history. The first interment predated the Revolutionary War. And the last one was in 2007. So you're running the gamut through the different wars, the different centuries actually. And then when you couple that with the legend of the Leatherman, which is highly entertaining and interesting. So you can't, and with a possible ghostly effect to it, a paranormal background attached to it, when you couple the two together, it intrigues me.
Yeah, this time period, the Revolutionary War times, the legend of, it's not even a legend, it's a true story.
Yeah, it's
been
factual.
documented, the Leatherman story, and then just going where we're going, where so much happened. People don't realize, right where we're going, literally 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles the most, down the road is Sleepy Hollow, New York, Tarrytown. Another cemetery that we'll be going back to, but this time giving you guys an historical look, less Halloween spooky, but more historical, which leads to the folklore of Sleepy Hollow. But right down the road from where we're headed to today is Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, and that whole area is so rich with history.
It really is.
And people don't realize that when it comes to paranormal, the paranormal stories happen first from the history. And that's what creates the entire story that you guys love, and that's why you guys are joining us here on episode 2 of Cemeteries of New York. So we're going to be on the road, and we'll see you guys at Sparta Cemetery in Ossining, New York. Bobby, let's do it.
See you there.
All right, so me and Bobby, we just got to Sparta Cemetery, and this is a very old cemetery. I have been here on a couple occasions and did one of my first investigations here when I was a young paranormal investigator. It's a very super old cemetery, and we're gonna take you guys through the cemetery right now, show you some of the older tombstones. It's very small. It's not really that big. So we'll take you around, show you some of the cemetery tombstones here, some of the years that people were buried here, and then we'll do some spooky stuff, see if we catch anything. Yeah. There are reports here of shadow people, balls of light, strange voices. When I looked up this place years ago, I'm talking about teenage years, those were the initial reports. And of course, the Leatherman, famous vagabond, is buried in the cemetery. We'll take you over to his marker in a little bit, but we're going to get started and show you guys some of Sparta Cemetery.
Sparta Cemetery in Ossining, New York is one of the oldest organized burial grounds in the Hudson Valley. Its history stretches back before the American Revolution, with the earliest marked grave belonging to a 5-year-old girl named Sarah Ledoux, who died in 1764. Her stone still stands there today, weathered but legible, a reminder of how long this ground has been in use. The cemetery itself spans only 2 acres, yet within are layers of history. It began as part of a Presbyterian congregation and grew into a resting place for settlers of English, Dutch, and French Huguenot backgrounds. These were some of the families who shaped the early identity of Ossining, which in its earliest days was known as Sing Sing.
Yeah, so back in 1764, the first interment here was Sarah Ledoux, young girl who was laid to rest in the family plot. This is the only plot here that has a brick enclosure. And 4 years later, her brother Abraham was interned here, and his stone was actually pierced by cannon fire from the British warship Vulture, which just shot from maybe 5,000 yards down here in Hudson River. So that just shows the trajectory of those ships. It's hard. This is so, I would imagine she's under
Very
this
hard
stone.
to read this.
And there were a bunch of names on here.
Abram, you can see it's the second one.
Yep, I saw Abraham was the second person. This is hard to read it. Abraham is the second one.
There's
there.
something completely missing here. You don't know if this was a tombstone or not.
No.
But
looked
this
like it
one,
was-
this one you can't read at all. It's almost part of the brick now.
Yes.
It's like merged
Still
in
one
there.
down.
And then this is all smoothed out. So I could see Ledoux
It's
on
definitely the
here.
Ledoux family.
Look, you could kind of make out Ledoux, but it's just
Interesting plot how they put the stones at the face of the structure, and inside there's nothing there, just the grass.
well. This was some form of a building, no?
I'm not sure. I don't know if this is capped at one point, because this looks,
Maybe try to make it like a mausoleum.
yeah,
Maybe
they might have started out as such, ended. I don't know. Different though from what I've seen. And somewhere here is somebody who was laid to rest in 2007. That was the latest.
2007.
7, yeah.
Wow.
That was the last one.
They probably
Must
had
have been a family plot.
Yep, I was just gonna say they
That's
had
what I would
they had it
think,
preserved
yeah.
off.
During the Revolutionary War, Sparta was not immune to the violence of the times. One gravestone here still bears the scar of a British cannonball that struck it in 1780. To this day, visitors can see the mark, a physical reminder of how the war reached even sacred grounds like this one. Through the centuries, burials continued here. Sparta Cemetery saw interments from colonial times all the way into 21st century, with the last known burials taking place in 2007. It is both a historical landmark and a memorial to hundreds of lives lived across generations. But beyond its history, Sparta Cemetery is best known for being tied to one of the strangest and most enduring legends in New York folklore, the Leatherman. The Leatherman was a mysterious vagabond who appeared in the mid-1800s. Wrapped head to toe in a suit made entirely of stitched-together leather, he became a haunting figure who roamed the Hudson Valley and western Connecticut. What made him so unusual was not just his appearance, but his routine. He walked a circuit of nearly 365 miles, traveling from town to town, cave to cave, always on foot. Remarkably, he did this in an exact cycle of 34 days, as if guided by some inner clock. Residents came and expected his visits. He would appear in their towns, often silently, sometimes grunting or speaking in broken English or French. Then, like clockwork, he would move on. Despite his odd, intimidating appearance, People knew him to be harmless. He often asked only for food, which families would leave out for him. He carried tools and a small prayer book written in French, leading many to believe he was either from France or French Canada. His leather suit, weighing nearly 60 pounds, was his armor against the harsh winters and long miles. The Leatherman became a figure of fascination. Newspapers wrote about him, artists sketched him, and children whispered about seeing him pass through their towns. He never revealed his true name, his origins, or why he chose the life of endless wandering.
There's a lot of history here. Bobby was just talking about Ledoux,
Yeah.
and this building. And it's funny, I've been here so many times and never really got the in-depth history. I just thought this was a regular building that got demolished by a cannonball. And Bobby went a step further, and there's a lot more history to it. And I didn't realize it was from the water. That's a shot.
Yeah, because we're not a cannonball throw from the Hudson.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That
It
direction.
had that, and it had that power and velocity that it can actually wind up here.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. All right, let's keep checking out the cemetery.
In March of 1889, the Leatherman cycle came to an end. He was found dead in a cave on George Dell's farm near Ossining. He had been suffering from mouth cancer, most likely from heavy tobacco use. When news spread of his death, crowds gathered to see the body of this legendary wanderer one final time. Hundreds of curious locals turned out, a testament to the impact that he had made. He was laid to rest here in Sparta Cemetery in the Pauper section not far from Route 9. His grave quickly became a site of pilgrimage. People wanted to see where the Leatherman was going to be buried, to stand by the resting place of this mysterious figure. In 1953, the Ossining Historical Society placed a plaque on his grave, identifying him as Jules Bourgly of Lyons, France. The story claimed he had once been a leather worker who suffered heartbreak and humiliation, leading him to wander in shame. But later, research proved this story to be false. The Leatherman's true identity remains unknown. Over time, the legend only grew. His grave became worn down by visitors. In 2011, it was decided to exhume the site for study. On May 25th of that year, the coffin was opened with no visible body and no lingering bones inside. Only coffin nails and soil were discovered. These items were respectfully reburied near the cemetery's flagpole, and today a simple brass plaque marks the spot with two words: the Leatherman.
All right, so this is the infamous Leatherman Memorial. And the reason we say memorial is, as you just heard, this was exhumed because his grave was too close to Route 9, which is behind us right over there. That is Route 9, right?
That's
yeah,
Route 9.
Route 9. And
you
they
can actually hear the traffic is so close.
Yeah, I don't know if the mics will pick it up because we have the noise canceling on, but his grave was originally too close to the road over here. So essentially what they did is they exhumed his grave to rebury him, but upon digging him up, all they found was nails to the coffin and just like dust, dirt, no bones, nothing of the Leatherman. So, and because he was such a legend, because of his routine that he had from Connecticut to New York, and he became such a legend. Actually, you know what? You should include that, what scientists thought about him, because I don't have that included.
Yeah, he used to do every 34 days, he would complete a 365-mile loop. It would go through Westchester County, part of Western Connecticut, and back. And he was so on point. He never had a timepiece. Maybe he went by the sun, but he would enter each town every 34 days within half an hour of the time he had done prior to. And they said that people would actually set their time, more or less, to his calendar. And they would wait him. They know he would come, and they would leave food out and he knew the houses that would be sharing the food with him, and he knew his safe spots, even though he kind of skirted outside the city and slept overnight in caves and such.
Yeah, he had such a routine that scientists believe that he could have been actually like autistic.
Yeah, that's why they wanted to take his DNA. And again, like Billy said, when they exhumed what would be the body, there was no body there.
No body.
But they want the DNA because of that time element he had, that he might have been possibly autistic. And they also were not sure if he was either from France or French Canadian.
Yeah, he spoke gibberish, jumbled.
Yeah.
They didn't know if it was French.
Yeah, but there was some kind of French accent in there.
They found the book that they believe was French, and obviously in Canada is some French.
Yeah.
Also, another thing is that was not mentioned is not only was he called the Leatherman because of the leather that he made and he wore, which was heavy.
Yeah.
So he did that track with heavy leather all 365 days.
Yeah.
But because of the harsh winter, and mind you, sleeping in caves, caves are not exactly the warmest. They get you out of the elements, but they're not warm.
Yeah.
His skin became like leather as well.
Yes.
So when I came here many years ago, that was one of the first things that I read, is that he was not only called Leatherman because he made leather and walked. His skin became so cold and ashy from being out in the elements that he was also called the Leatherman because of just how he looked.
Well, actually, in term with that, I think it was maybe 1888. There was a severe blizzard here, and he got pretty sick, and he had cancer. He had cancer
Mouth
in his
cancer.
jaw. Yeah,
Mouth cancer because back in the day, cigars, cigarettes, and chewing tobacco was very big.
And and people actually loved the man. He became a part of folklore, and they had like a connection to him. So they actually had him arrested, and they put him in a hospital just to keep him safe, and so they can give him some medication and get him back to health. But he was able to get away from the hospital. He escaped, and I think 1889, a local lawyer, I believe, and his wife, they thought maybe he was by a certain cave, and they said when they got to the cave, it was obvious that he had recently deceased, and what ended up here.
Wow.
Yeah.
And look how many years later, over 100 plus.
Yeah.
There's the legend.
150 years, yeah.
Yeah. The
They
legend
have
of the
books on
Leatherman.
him.
Still,
A run.
a very big feature on Sleepy Hollow Country on social media. It's a legend over here in Ossining to parts of Connecticut, but Ossining, Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow,
big.
you go to any of the local spots and say, have you heard about the Leatherman?
Yeah.
And people know because it's just town lore. It's folklore. It's something that people hold dearly all these years later. And he was a legend then, and he's still a legend now.
Yeah.
I've been here now, and I'm a guy from the Bronx.
Yeah.
We're both guys from the Bronx, but I have been here now. This is my 4th or 5th time in the cemetery. Never have I done an in-depth historical, or I would say historical episode about this place. We've done more of the spooky stuff, but Cemeteries of New York is about not only the spooky, but giving people the history. Yeah. Although there are legends of spooky things happening here, which started with the Leatherman. Years ago, I looked up online and the Leatherman lore came up and said that he was the one that haunted the cemetery. Obviously, things have changed, but there's a historical aspect to every place we go and investigate, including the cemeteries. And the Leatherman is definitely holding on the history and the lore for Ossining, New York, and even parts of Tarrytown, Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah. Well, what's beautiful about areas like Ossining, Tarrytown, and Westchester County itself, you have the history of a cemetery that predates the Revolutionary War, and it runs the gamut all the way to modern times. So you're going to have the history coupled very often with the supernatural.
Yeah. Well, without history, there's no mystery, and without the history and mystery, there's no paranormal.
Yeah.
So
It's true.
The original plaque that misidentified him, along with other artifacts, can now be seen at the Ossining Historical Society Museum. The Leatherman himself, though, remains a mystery. Over the years, his life has inspired books, documentaries, folklore tours, and even a popular trail race known as the Leatherman's Loop. Pearl Jam, immortalized him in their 1998 song, Leatherman. And his story continues to fascinate those who hear it. So who was he really? Was he a man fleeing from some great personal tragedy, as the false French story suggested? Was he someone seeking penance, or a man who simply chose the solitude of the road? We may never know, but here at Sparta Cemetery, his legacy endures. Sparta Cemetery itself is a place of layered history, from Revolutionary War relics to the mystery of the Leatherman. It is more than a burial ground. It is a place where fact and folklore meet, where the living continue to tell stories of the dead. And as long as people continue to ask about the Leatherman, to visit his marker, and to walk the roads that he once traveled, his legend will never truly die.
All right, we're getting ready to wrap up our little trip to Sparta Cemetery. Again, very small cemetery, but we found the Leatherman grave and walked 2 acres of the cemetery. Literally, you could do it within 2 minutes.
Yeah, if you want to, yeah.
And very historical cemetery. Of course, the local legend of the Leatherman. And as far as we can tell, no paranormal activity. I don't really get a vibe here like that.
Not today. Doesn't mean there's nothing here.
The only spooky vibe that I got, honestly speaking, was when the 2 deer came out and I was petrified of them running into my car, which is parked over there, and just completely denting it with their racks. But a very beautiful spot. If you are in Ossining, New York, and you want to come check it out, I will tell you this. You will not be able to find it and pull in right away. You will miss the turn. Right, Bobby?
Yeah. Several times, actually.
I was telling Bobby on the way here that I came here about 3 to 4 times, literally missed the turn every time, and of sure as shit, right?
We'll do it again next time.
We did it again when we pulled up here. We literally missed the turn.
It barely looks like a driveway.
You pull into actually someone's property by accident. Luckily enough, they weren't outside, and you know, he would have said sorry, but it's so close to another person's property. You'll either pull into their property or you will miss the cemetery completely. But a very beautiful cemetery.
It really is.
And complete with spookiness that we didn't really get today, and a local legend in that of the Leatherman.